That song, Rolling River God, we talked about it, and Jaren, I know it's one that's near and dear to her heart, and the message of it is so beautiful, and so I asked her if she would also do it for this Sunday because it fits so well with what we're talking about today. Some of the words especially that struck me are rolling river God, sometimes raging wild, sometimes swollen high. The deepest part of you is where I want to stay. The deepest part of you is where I want to stay and feel the sharpest edges wash away. My prayer would be that I am a little smoother in your hand. So timely. Speaks so perfectly to our theme for this month, the power of radical contentment. And today in that theme, I'm taking some lessons from the power and the flow and the qualities of what else? Of water. And that's another reason why I wanted to hear that song about the spirituality, the experience of the river, so much like our experience in spirit. I know it's this thing about water. I was a sensitive subject because we've had rain nonstop for like 10 days, and so I wasn't doing a rain dance, and I'm not that powerful, but it was not lost on me either that I'm talking about water, and we've had plenty of it. This is the book by Alan Cohen that I'm referring to this month. Enough Already: The Power of Radical Contentment. Enough already. The power of radical contentment. And here's what he writes. He says, in a world where fear and crisis and insufficiency seem to dominate, the notion of contentment may seem totally unrealistic and crazy and even heretical. And yet, being able to find contentment right where you stand may be the answer in a world seemingly obsessed with discontent. Does seem a little counterintuitive to say in this crazy world the answer may just be to stand and reside in a place of contentment. So I think that's why he calls it radical contentment. It's a kind of a radical idea. Actually, contentment does not mean complacency. Not at all. And that may be your first reaction, wait a minute, I'm not going to sit back and be complacent. It's not that at all. It's about appreciating all that you have while reaching for all the greater experiences that are there for you, and although seeming like it's an unrealistic and even, as he says, heretical suggestion, the truth is that to have a consciousness of contentment is to have a powerful tool for making welcome all the possibilities that are ours. It makes them welcome. So the first 2 weeks of the series, and you can hear this on our podcast at our website, the first week we talked about the fact that we can trust our inner knower. So often we're discontented and upset because we don't know. We think we don't know all the answers, and yet there's always an inner knower that does. And so that was the first thing, to trust that inner knower, which is the divine intelligence and wisdom of the universe, of God, that is always there within us. The second thing was about finding contentment by relinquishing the desire to respond to life's ups and downs with drama. No drama when we're in that mode of contentment. The third was finding that contentment, or reminding ourselves that contentment is a choice. It's a choice we can make regardless of conditions. Science of Mind, our beautiful teaching that Ernest Holmes is the architect of our philosophy. He has said this, and great spiritual masters have said this in various ways, that we can think independently of conditions, and so we can choose contentment independently of what is going on. And then last week we talked about don't just do something, stand there. Don't just do something, stand there. We talked about go slow to go faster. And finally, less fixing and more savoring. Less fixing and more savoring. So today is about less struggle and more flow. less struggle, and more flow. And why is that? Well, when we're struggling, we're not experiencing contentment. That isn't rocket science to figure that out. But when I'm in struggle, I am in no way feeling contented. And our energy and our vibration when we're in struggle is really not welcoming to the solutions that we desire, to kindness and compassion. It's not welcoming to guidance. It's not welcoming to possibilities. It's an energy and a vibration that really constricts us and shuts us off from all of that. And in contrast, when we're in the flow, well, you get the idea. It's the opposite of that. We're open. We're open to and welcoming to all of those things that are there for us, that we're seeking, that we desire. So in his book, there's a chapter titled, How Easy Can It Get? How Easy Can It Get? And he writes about one of his coaching clients who said, I confess, I can turn anything into a boot camp. Anything into a boot camp. Can you relate? I can. Anything in front of me, I can make it 20 times harder than it really needs to be. But he said in that chapter, he shared a list of several habitual beliefs that we harbor, that we hold on to, that result in struggle and result in that boot camp mentality that everything is so hard. And so he made up a term. He said, and these beliefs qualify us as hardaholics. Hardaholics. These are people who are addicted to doing everything the hard way. Everything is a hassle. It's an overwhelm, and it's difficult. It's a struggle. Some examples of those beliefs are that he lists are life is a struggle, and if things come your way easily, you're cheating. The only way to success is through painful work and agonizing self-sacrifice. And another one on that list is that R&R, rest and relaxation, is self-indulgent, and you should feel guilty for that. Truly, in the back of our mind, in our conditioning, a lot of those beliefs are just thrumming along, and we almost take them as assumptions about life. And if something is actually flowing and easy, it's like, wait a minute, what am I not doing? Got to be a difference, and yet the message is less struggle and more flow. So how do you overcome this, as he calls it, hardaholism or struggleism? Well, first of all, it's a simple thing. Begin by questioning your belief that everything has to be done the hard way. Just question that belief. Why am I approaching this? What am I believing about it and about me and about life? Another thing is then shift to a place of refusing to participate in struggle. Just say, I'm done. I'm tired. I'm not going to participate anymore in struggle. And because of you value your sense of inner peace more, then choose contentment. Sometimes it's just a matter of getting sassy and stamping your foot and saying, enough already. I'm not going to be participating in struggle. I'm choosing contentment. I may not know how all that works out, but I'm choosing it. That's where you start. Does contentment include effort? Yes. Does it include expending our energy? Yes, definitely. Yesterday's garage sale and all that led up to it, I think, was a great example of immense effort and work and energy, but I really didn't ever sense in the people, all the people, as I was hearing about it, we were talking about things, and as I observed, I never saw a sense of struggle. It was a beautiful example of what I'm talking about. Of it doesn't have to be high drama, everything's a crisis and a big struggle. There was an underpinning of contentment, and I truly believe it's because of the high consciousness of the people who were working on this. They get it. They know, and probably weren't even thinking, okay, now I'm going to be contented through all this, but there was this sense of it's all working out, it's all good, and it was incredible. Dr. Ernest Holmes, in this wonderful book I just love, 365 Days of Richer Living. And as I said, he's the architect of our philosophy, and he wrote this just beautifully in just the reading for a couple days ago. Heading is, I accomplish with ease. And he says, infinite mind is forever in action, producing good, and I now realize that I am an outlet for that perfect action of a perfect God. Therefore, my yoke is easy and my burden is light, for God does the work. My work is to let God's action flow through me into creative and valuable results. This takes the burden of hard work off my shoulders, and I accomplish all things with ease. My work is easy, for I let Spirit within me do it. I know that there is no need to struggle for a living, for God acting through me makes easy my job. I now relax and know that within me right action is taking place and that I'm inspired to the right results. Everything I need appears when I need it. All the strength I need is within me, never fails me, and all the wisdom I need is within me and guides me constantly. I lean on the indwelling Spirit, and it never refuses to respond to my call. That's what I'm talking about. That's what he's talking about. We can trust that infinite Spirit within, because it was never the Creator's intention that its creation struggle. Not at all. There are some beautiful scripture verses that came to mind when I was thinking about that too. From other spiritual teachings have said much of the same thing, and this is from the Bible. But there's one that says, the 23rd Psalm. He leadeth me beside the still waters. Still waters. He restoreth my soul. There's another one that says, come unto me, all you that labor, and I will give you rest. There's so peace, all kinds of things about peace and peacefulness. It's a spiritual principle, and we're entitled to experience that. So, in the theme of today, of less struggle and more flow, here's a question to ask yourself then. If you are struggling, or if you're resisting something, or if you're frustrated, or if you're overwhelmed or stressing, obviously not contented, ask yourself, how would I be doing this differently if I were willing to let it be easy? How would I be doing this differently if I were willing to let it be easy? If instead of struggling against the flow or swimming upstream, I was willing to be in the flow, to be in the clear, calm energy of contentment. Just imagine it. You don't have to do it necessarily if that's just too much of a stretch. But what would it be like if I decided that? How would I be doing it differently if I were willing to let it be easy? You and I may have been told that struggle is a fact of life, but just remember, it is just a belief, and we can grow out of that belief. Struggle was never the Creator's intention for us. So less struggle, more flow. What does that look like in life, being in the flow of life? Well, as I said, water is just such a beautiful metaphor, beautiful teacher for us. So some of the qualities of water can tell us how we can struggle less and flow, be in the flow, so much more. Just think about how a stream of water flows along, encountering all kinds of twists and turns and obstacles. And if you've ever watched that, I think we all probably have seen that at some point, it doesn't struggle, does it? It just flows, following the path of least resistance. And it finds a way under, over, and around to get to where it's going. Now, how many of us have been taught that to follow the path of least resistance would lead to slothfulness, laziness, and worse? Yeah, I was never taught, take the path of least resistance. But there's incredible spiritual truth in that if we look at how water does it. And in water's flowing, think about this too. Notice how a great river originates, a tiny stream up in some mountaintop. Tiny, maybe not even noticeable, but it starts, and it gradually starts going down the mountain, always flowing in the direction of gravity toward the ocean. And along the way, there are boulders and there are trees and all kinds of things that could be considered obstacles, and the stream is not the least bit interested in those. All it is about is getting to where the current is taking it and becoming stronger and larger as it joins with other streams along the way, and always going in the direction that it is the path of least resistance, in its direction toward the sea. So what a great way to move through life. What a great way to move through our lives and to recognize how the flow of life actually is. And as I said, the stream always flows toward the ocean, being embraced and absorbed by the immensity of the ocean. But it doesn't hold back, saying, I don't know, I kind of got my own thing going on. I don't think I want to get absorbed in something larger. It doesn't fear a loss of identity or a loss of control. It just goes along humbly and gracefully, tumbling into the vastness of the ocean, bringing what it can bring, and then being absorbed into that something that is greater and endless without resistance. What a lesson for us. Each time we move beyond our individual little egos and control and all of that to become part of something bigger, we're following the lead of water, truly of nature. Water can inspire us to not become rigid with fear. We're going to be afraid. Fear is always there because that's part of being human. There are things that trigger our inner fears, but we don't have to be stuck in that place and rigid with fear or clinging to what's familiar. The water doesn't do that. It doesn't waste time with all that clinging to what's familiar or even looking back at its past, like, oh, maybe I want to redo. No, it just keeps moving. Now, what about when it hits a waterfall, when there's all of a sudden a big incline and there is a waterfall, and those are intense. And if you've ever seen some of these beautiful, really big waterfalls, they're just breathtaking, aren't they? I mean, just gorgeous, the power there. But think how the little river must feel. Whoops! That's a big drop. But no resistance. There, you don't ever see water. This would be crazy. Going back up. I don't think I want to go down. I'm going to go back up. No, it goes where the current is taking it toward its greater destination. And actually, when a river hits a waterfall and it breaks in that way and moves forward, it gains energy and power. And it is, as I said, just so beautiful. So, anybody ever hit a waterfall in your life? I have. I mean, a figure in your life, for that feeling like, oh, wow, the bottom's dropping out. Yeah. And the truth is, as we encounter our own waterfalls, you know that feeling, we may fall hard, but we can always keep moving on and even see the great beauty of that experience in retrospect and be empowered by it. Now, another thing about water, and this speaks to some of what Jaron was singing about, water is powerful, but it is non-resistant. As I've been saying, it doesn't struggle. And yet you've seen how it has worn away stone, rocks. Go to the Grand Canyon as an exquisite example. You can be stunned and amazed by the power of water. That is a canyon that has been carved out over hundreds of years by river, by water. No big struggle, no big battle, just flowing and doing its thing, just being what it is, and yet the power to carve out that canyon. In Jaron's song, the deepest part of you is where I want to stay and feel the sharpest edges wash away. Have you ever been in an experience like that where you're struggling with it, and then after a time you realize as you get into the flow of it and you surrender, you realize that some of your sharp edges indeed have, when you let go, when I let go, those sharp edges have been softened and washed away. That's what life will do if we allow it. I love referring to the Tao Te Ching, that ancient Oriental philosophy, and here's what it says about water. It says, nothing in the world is as soft and as yielding as water, yet for dissolving the hard and inflexible, nothing can surpass it. The soft overcomes the hard, and the gentle overcomes the rigid. Listen to that. In today's world, soft overcomes the hard, the gentle overcomes the rigid. I invite you to whatever you're looking at this week, whatever you're facing, whether you're looking at the world and how human race belief copes with strife and conflict and disagreements, or whether it's in your own life, whatever's there, think about that. The soft overcomes the hard, the gentle overcomes the rigid. Give that a try this week. Now, I will say, we have seen water do some pretty destructive things, or what we would say are destructive. It's as though we want to blame the water. Floods and too much rain and current washing away homes and even towns. I mean, it can be, you say, wait a minute, where's the flow in that? What's friendly about that? Here's the thing. We can't blame the water. It was here first, I do believe. It was here before we were. And also, the more we, as in our human advancement, have learned to align with and understand and work with water, because there's no fighting it, working with it by building structures that are stronger, or creating dams and levees and things that align with it. Water's not the enemy. We are the ones that need to align with what is. And that's the same thing with your life. It's not about changing gears and trying to rearrange everything according to a set of rules. It's almost like getting into alignment with how your life wants to take you. Getting into alignment, we will say often, with God, with Spirit. There is an impulse within you that's always moving you toward aliveness, toward your uniqueness, toward your greatness. And as you and I stop struggling with, but wait a minute, what about this situation? But I don't have this, and well, look at what they're doing. See, those are the things then that cause us to be out of alignment with the beauty of what wants to happen by means of us. And when we can let go of all of that and be in alignment with Spirit in, as, and through us, then water, life, is our friend. Life is never against us. We can be sure that if things are really, the wheels are falling off, chances are we've gotten out of alignment. It's even, I was thinking about when, on the news you hear about rip currents. We have a fair amount of those in the Gulf here. And what's the advice? Swim against the rip current? No way. Swim parallel to the shore. Get into alignment, and you'll be okay. Or one of my favorite things to remember is, when you can't do anything else, float. The water will hold us. We don't struggle if we float. Life will do that too. Now here's another way of considering water and life and contentment and the flow. 3 things. Stand in a river. Stand in a stream of water. This is about just standing still as the water is flowing by you. As I said last week, we talked about this, standing still is kind of underrated, and moving is overrated. And so we talked about don't just do something, stand there. Well, this is a version of that. Close your eyes if you'd like to, but just imagine and feel yourself standing barefoot in the middle of a shallow stream or a shallow river, just flowing, and your feet are solidly on the bottom. You're not moving, you're just standing there, and all the action is in the water that's around you. You don't have to do a thing. It just keeps on going in one direction. Its intended direction. Notice you are standing still, and you're immersed in, and you're surrounded by energy, by movement, by aliveness. You are still. You just stand there, and yet there's something happening. So you can open your eyes if you'd like to and come back out of the water. Dry your feet off, please. Of course, the river is symbolic of the flow of life, of God. There's a wonderful gospel song that I go back to in my mind. I love it, and I play it very often also because it so inspires me. And here's what it says. It's a gospel song, so it's really got a lot of heart and passion. But what do you do when you've done all you can and it seems like it's never enough? What do you do when your heart has been broken and filled with pain? What do you say when your friends turn away and you're all alone? Tell me, what do you give when you've given your all and it seems like you can't make it through? Well, you just stand. You trust and surrender. You just stand when there's nothing left to do. You just stand and watch the Lord see you through. Watch the Lord see you through. Now, Lord, metaphysically, means the law of life. How beautiful that is. It's speaking to that. Just stand still. Because when you think you're out of options and out of resources, you're not. We're not. We just need to stop thrashing around and stand still in the river and let the flow take care of us and guide us. And you'll be amazed. If you do this, you'll be amazed at what happens when you're willing to stop in that space and stand in that space. The river of ideas and inspirations and guidance and even resources that will come to you. And this brings me to the second thing about standing in the river. You can trust the flow. You can trust the flowing river of life, of God, to bring you just what you need. And it'll come gracefully and gently and powerfully, sometimes so subtly that you won't notice it right away. So pay attention. The Tao says, the supreme good is like water, which without trying nourishes all things. Nourishes all things without trying. And that would include you. So you're standing in the river of life, the river of God flowing, and that river keeps on flowing, and it keeps on bringing newness and aliveness to you to support your life in ways you would never have imagined. And the truth is, while you're standing still, all of this is happening because you're standing still, but life isn't ever standing still. Life is always movement, and that's what you can trust. There's an author I love, Wayne Muller, who wrote a beautiful book called Sabbath, and it's all about, in a way, standing still in the river, taking time, taking Sabbath for ourselves in all kinds of wonderful, renewing ways. And he said, sometimes our greatest wisdom comes when we're not striving to discover anything at all. Sometimes our greatest wisdom comes when we are not striving to discover anything at all. We're standing still in the flow of life. And so the third thing about standing in that river is it came to pass. At the source of that river, the water is pure. You know, at the top of the mountain, and the water keeps flowing downstream, and it picks up silt and minerals and waste and a lot of things. And by the time it gets down the way a bit, it's not so pretty. But here's the thing. It keeps on flowing. Whatever it is, it came to pass. So, just because you have a lot of what you might think is bad stuff, nasty stuff happening in your life, doesn't mean you're doomed to a life of nasty, bad stuff. The current keeps on flowing. Life keeps on flowing, and it came to pass. Life is not a stagnant pond, and there is always that originating pure water flowing, pure life flowing through you, around you, as you. It came to pass. So to wrap all this up, being in the flow of contentment, radical contentment, not struggle. It's within you and me. It's not contingent on outer conditions at all, but it does change our experience of those conditions. I can guarantee you that. It will change your experience of whatever is going on when you view them from that place of flow, of contentment. And often it will transform the outer conditions as well. So trust in that flow. We sang the song about I surrender and I trust and I know. And I fall into the arms of love. We can trust. And that's what I'm inviting you to do, is trust the flow and surrender to it. Try it this week. Try it maybe for an hour or a day. And feel it. Feel it. Be like water. Be like water. And oh, funny thing, Jaren's going to sing. I want to be like water. Namaste. Thank you.